shanti shanti. Hari Om. Sahana bhavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavamahai, tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om stapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine. Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine. Avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma mritangamaya. Om shanti shanti shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God Incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. We have been studying various topics taken from Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Today's topic I want to discuss: what is surrender? One should not think surrendering is weakness. It is not so. Surrendering is also one of the major paths to facilitate realization of God. Well, people are engaged in so many actions, as a result of which they experience sufferings as well as some happiness. But when they feel that they have made a mess of everything, when they feel they are totally disappointed and dejected, when they are frustrated, then they want to turn towards knowing the truth. Why there is suffering? When a person has committed so many wrong doings, he cannot escape from the effect of wrongdoings. So what is the way then? When a person feels very difficult to practice rigorous disciplines, at least he can take up the path of surrendering to God. Sri Ramakrishna has said in the Gospel in a very clear way, surrender everything at the feet of God. What else can you do? Give Him the power of attorney. Let Him do whatever He thinks best. If you rely on a great man, he will never injure you. So to really go in spiritual path, what is most important is zealousness in your effort and believing in the presence of God. You must accept that there is divine power, though invisible to us, is operating in the whole universe. It is no doubt necessary to practice spiritual discipline. Unless you practice some discipline, it is not possible to turn the extrovert mind inward. Mind is the cause of all the troubles that man is facing. So, Sri Ramakrishna's instructions have immense value, have immense significance only when you are sincere aspirant. That should be there. Are you aspirant? Then come. There is clear guidance for the aspirants. Sri Ramakrishna explains in the Gospel there are two kinds of aspirants. The nature of the one kind is like that of the young monkey, and the nature of the other kind is like that of the kitten. The young monkey, with great exertion, somehow clings to its mother. Likewise, there are some aspirants who think that in order to realize God, they must repeat His name a certain number of times, they must meditate on Him for a certain period, and they must practice a certain amount of austerity. An aspirant of this kind makes his own efforts to catch hold of God. But the kitten of itself cannot cling to its mother. It lies on the ground and cries, mew, mew, mew. It leaves everything to its mother. The mother cat sometimes puts it on a bed, sometimes on the roof behind a pile of wood. She carries the kitten in her mouth hither and thither. The kitten doesn't know how to cling to the mother. The mother grasps the kitten and takes the child wherever it wants to keep. Likewise, there are some aspirants who cannot practice spiritual discipline by calculating about japa or the period of meditation. All that they do is just cry to God with yearning hearts. Just like the kitten crying mew mew, like that you pray on. God hears your prayer and He cannot keep Himself away. He reveals Himself to your prayers. As I said, the basic quality must be there. That is, you must be sincere and you must be zealous. Then everything works out. Once a devotee asked Sri Ramakrishna, "Sir, there are obstacles in the way we live the life in the world. The children sometimes are disobedient. There is no end of difficulties. What's the way?" See, all the relevant questions have been answered very differently by Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna tells him, well, it is extremely difficult to practice spiritual discipline and at the same time lead a householder's life. There are many handicaps: disease, grief, poverty, misunderstanding with one's own wife, and disobedient, stupid and stubborn children. I don't have to give you a list of them. Sri Ramakrishna tells that person. But still there is a way out. That is, one should pray to God, going now and then into solitude and make efforts to realize Him. Then the person asked, must one leave home then? Sri Ramakrishna said, no, not altogether. Whenever you have leisure, go into the solitude for a day or two. Not run to the nightclub and spend your time there in dirty games. Go to solitude. Attend some retreats where you will have lots of spiritual ideas coming up for discussion. At that time, when you are doing retreat or when you have gone to a solitary place, don't have any relations with the outside world and don't hold any conversation with worldly people and worldly affairs. See how clearly Sri Ramakrishna tells. If you follow, surely you will get into God. You must live either in solitude or in the company of holy men. When Sri Ramakrishna uttered the name holy man, the devotee asked, Sir, how to recognize a holy man? Sri Ramakrishna said again, he who has surrendered his body, mind and innermost self to God is surely a holy man. He who has renounced lust and gold is surely a holy man. He is a holy man who does not regard woman with the eyes of a worldly person. He never forgets to look upon a woman as his mother and to offer her his worship if he happens to be near her. The holy man constantly thinks of God and he doesn't indulge in any talk except about spiritual things. Furthermore, he serves all beings, knowing that God resides in everybody's heart. These, in general, are the signs of a holy man. Then the devotee asked, must one always live in solitude? Then Sri Ramakrishna explains further. Haven't you seen the trees on the footpath along the street? They are fenced around as long as they are very young. Otherwise cattle destroy them. But there is no longer any need of fences when their trunks grow thick and strong. Then they won't break even if an elephant is tied to them. Just so, there will be no need for you to worry and fear if you make your mind as strong as a thick tree trunk. First of all, try to acquire discrimination. Break the jackfruit open only after you have rubbed your hands with oil. Then its sticky milk won't smear them. Then immediately the devotee asks, Sir, what is discrimination? Sri Ramakrishna clarifies, discrimination is a reasoning by which one knows that God alone is real and all else is unreal. Unreal in the sense they are temporary, they just keep on changing. This moment it is there, next moment it is not there. So that which is constantly changing can never be called real. Real means eternal, and unreal means impermanent. He who has acquired discrimination knows that God is the only substance and all else is non-existent. With the awakening of this spirit of discrimination, a man wants to know God. On the contrary, if a man loves the unreal, such things as creature comforts, name, fame and wealth, then he doesn't want to know God, who is of the very nature of reality. Through discrimination between the real and the unreal, one seeks to know God. Then Sri Ramakrishna sang a song. Come, let us go for a walk, O mind, to Kali, the wish-fulfilling tree, and there beneath it gather the 4 fruits of life. Of your 2 wives, dispassion and worldliness, bring along dispassion only on your way to the tree, and ask her son discrimination about the truth. How figuratively this song is sung. By turning the mind within oneself, one acquires discrimination, and through discrimination one thinks of truth. Then the mind feels the desire to go for a walk to Kali, the wish-fulfilling tree. Reaching that tree, that is to say, going near to God, you can without any effort gather 4 fruits. What are they? Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. Yes, after realizing God, one can also get, if one so desires, Dharma, Artha and Kama, which are necessary for leading the worldly life. Then the devotee asks, why should one call the world Maya? Sri Ramakrishna said, as long as one has not realized God, one should renounce the world, following the process of neti, not this, not this. But he who has attained God knows that it is God who has become all this. Then he sees that God, Maya, living beings and the universe, they all form one whole. God includes the universe and its living beings. So surrender to God is the major spiritual path. If you study Bhagavad Gita, you can immediately recognize that surrender to God is the essence of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. It has been eulogized as the surest means of God realization. Surrender to God or taking refuge in God has been mentioned several times in the Bhagavad Gita. And in the end, chapter 18, Sri Krishna asks Arjuna to come unto him for shelter. Mamekam sharanam vraja. According to the Gita, surrender to God is not an act of submissiveness nor an act of helplessness. It is an act which is to be done out of one's own free will. It is our right to seek a higher, nay the highest dimension of our being with a sense of delight and in a spirit of pure devotion and humility. It implies that one should shed one's ego, which is at the root of all diminutive manifestation of life, to become an instrument in his hands. This is possible only when we totally fill ourselves with God's presence, which opens the way for God to function through us. It should be clearly understood that it is not an excuse to escape from performing social, moral and ethical obligations. On the contrary, it means working with complete enthusiasm for work in the same manner as God works in this universe, unattached and without any selfish motive. One cannot sit back relaxed and expect that things will happen automatically. Throughout the Gita, Lord Krishna exhorts mankind through Arjuna to arise, fight, stand up, conquer, which clearly indicates that there is no place for an idler in the scheme of things for God realization. Swami Vivekananda says that one cannot surrender to God if one is weak. One has to become strong before the act of surrender, because one can give something only when one possesses it. One has to attain manliness and self-confidence before surrendering to God. Sri Ramakrishna says that those who surrender to God are ever protected by Him. He cites the example of a grinding stone. In our country, India, this is very common, grinding stone. I don't know whether it is used here in America. It's a round stone slab that rotates on another one with a shaft to grind gram, etc. Where the grams which stay close to the shaft remain untouched. Ramana Maharshi says that surrender to God is neither meekness nor aloofness from life. It is a great action where challenges of life are met with courage, equanimity and knowledge. Surrendering our destiny at His feet. What can destiny do then? Sri Aurobindo is of the view that in order to surrender to God, a strong aspiration is necessary for raising oneself to a higher state and rejecting movements of lower nature. Another great philosopher, Dr. Radhakrishnan, he says that though God conducts the world according to fixed laws and expects us to conform to the law of right action, if we take shelter in Him, we transcend all these. This is in conformity with what Sri Rama says in the Ramayana. In Valmiki Ramayana, Sri Ramchandra says, Dharmishtancha yashasyancha swargyam sattu palodaye sakradeva prapannaya tavasmiti cha yachate abhayam sarvabhutebhyo dadamye tadvratam mama anayenam harishreshta tattamasya bhayam maya. Sri Ramchandra says in the Valmiki Ramayana, if one seeks refuge at my feet, I shall protect him from anybody and everybody in all circumstances. This is my steadfast vow. Sri Krishna declared in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja ahantva sarvapapebhyo mokshishyami ma shuja. You may have committed heinous crimes, but if you abandon everything and take refuge in me, then I shall definitely deliver you from all sins. Grieve not. Surrender to God can be compared to an umbrella which protects us against rain. We all know how Draupadi was saved in Kaurava court from humiliation when she surrendered to Lord Krishna completely. Surrender to God means that one has to act rightly with responsibility of discharging one's duties. Recognition of our constant relationship with God also means surrender to Him. When we surrender to God, we receive a positive energy to deal with any negative thoughts within us. Surrender to God also makes one independent of others because one depends only on God. Self-surrender must be complete and without any precondition or reservation, even as a river, when it joins the ocean, loses its separate identity. Similarly, in surrender, we have to crush the lost traces of our ego as a separate entity. Surrender to God is a final act of devotion and is very positive and active way of living. One does not then hesitate to consecrate one's life, feelings, thoughts and actions to God. In the final analysis, it is perfect confidence in the power of goodness and in one's own self. Therefore, it is not weakness or submissiveness, but it is our choice in life, one that is dynamic and positive. In Raj Yoga also, it is mentioned how surrendering is very useful and helpful in realizing the truth. Ishvara Pranidhana, that is a Sanskrit word. It is translated as surrender to the divine. It is Sharanagati, offering ourselves unto the divine. I am now in one position, and in surrender I change my position and put myself into another position. I center myself in the divine. I give myself up and place myself in the divine for the divine to do what it wishes with me. So it is called self-offering or offering of oneself. It is called self-surrender. Now, self-surrender, rightly practiced, is a great help in achieving the ultimate aim of yoga, namely superconsciousness. Superconsciousness is a state in which one is able to go beyond the present stage of bondage resulting from an erroneous idea about oneself. In superconsciousness, one transcends error and moves into truth, into right perception. Thus moving, one attains illumination. One regains one's true status of Purushahood. That is the value of superconsciousness. That is the significance of attaining superconsciousness. Superconsciousness corrects the whole error of the human being and puts him back where he belongs. When dealing with this state of superconsciousness, which is the ultimate aim, objective or goal of Raj Yoga, in one place the great Patanjali says that that state can be brought about or attained through various means. And in cataloguing them, the sage mentions Ishvara Pranidhana also as one of the means. It is possible to attain superconsciousness through perfect Ishvara Pranidhana. If it is whole-souled and 100% complete and perfect, then Ishvara Pranidhana has in it the power to grant you the experience of superconsciousness, which means that this fifth of the 5 niyamas is of tremendous help in the actual yoga process. It means that Bahiranga Yoga and Antaranga Yoga, the two forms of yoga. What is the actual yoga process? Concentration, meditation and samadhi. These three taken together constitute the actual yoga process, the real yoga. And meditation is impossible with a scattered mind, with a mind in which the outgoing tendency has not been reversed, has not been corrected and eliminated. In such a mind, the outgoing tendency is still very strong and real, and effective meditation is not possible. Therefore, in as much as the interiorizing of the mind, the withdrawing of the mind from the externals is an indispensable condition, is a prerequisite to this real process of yoga constituted by concentration, meditation and samadhi. This withdrawal of the mind, what is called pratyahara, has also been included as an inseparable part, as an integral part of the actual yoga process or the inner yoga. Therefore, these last 4 angas, withdrawal, concentration, meditation and samadhi, are regarded and referred to as the antaranga aspect of Patanjali's yoga. Whereas the first four angas, yama, niyama, asana and pranayama, they are generally referred to as the bahiranga aspect of yoga. There are, however, some people who include pratyahara also under bahiranga yoga and say that the first 5 limbs constitute bahiranga yoga and the last 3 limbs constitute antaranga yoga. Well, the more logical classification, withdrawal is more related to concentration and meditation, though the practice of this 5th factor, namely withdrawal, is something that has to be practiced during vyavahara. So those who include it in bahiranga sadhana have a certain basis, a certain reason for it, because this withdrawal is not something which you do when you go to your meditation room and close the door and sit on your seat and start doing your meditation. It is something that has to be practiced even when you are moving about, even when you are active, dealing with various matters of daily life. Though as a specific technique, even after sitting on your seat, a certain practice of withdrawal is involved. But the actual practice of the 5th anga, withdrawal of the mind, is something that has to be gradually perfected during your active vyavahara. Here, suffice to say that whatever be the classification of pratyahara, this 5th niyama of Ishvara Pranidhana is evidently so important and is of such tremendous help and significance even to one's Ashtanga, Antaranga sadhana, that Patanjali Maharshi has gone to the extent of saying that attainment of super consciousness is possible also through Ishvara Pranidhana. It shows its importance. So we must be in a position to understand why clearly Maharshi has said like this, what this surrender means. Now in what way does Patanjali Maharshi visualize or envisage this practice of self-surrender? What is his idea about it and in what way does he conceive of it? What has he to tell us about this surrender? So all these points are discussed in Raj Yoga very thoroughly. Self-surrender is a surrender of those factors which stand in the way of our attaining super consciousness, which as long as we cling to them will not allow us to move forward and ascend upward. So in the most general sense of the term, it is a surrender of those metaphysical factors that stand in the way of our attaining the object of yoga, the ultimate goal of yoga. Patanjali says that that which holds us bound to samsara is our present wrong consciousness, which has come about due to our involvement in cosmic nature, in phenomenal nature of our Prakriti. This present wrong state of consciousness is one where we are identified with passing non-eternal aspects of our personality, such as body, mind, name, form, our opinions, our desires, our cravings, our self-importance, our egoistical ideas, and our egoistical wishes regarding things. These create problems for us. We want things in a particular way, in such and such a way only, not in any other way. And if anyone is helpful in fulfilling our desires for things to be in such and such a way, he is our friend. We are well inclined towards him. If someone comes in the way of our having things in the manner we want, if someone comes in the way and upsets our apple cart, then he is to us our enemy. We have ill will towards him. We have negative feelings towards that person, a negative relationship. So, raga, dvesha, like and dislike, attraction and repulsion, arise out of our clinging to certain personal desires, to certain personal wishes. Not mine, O Lord, thy will be done. Thy will be done, not mine. This is the other end of the pole. It is at the North Pole, and the common human consciousness is at the South Pole. Unconsciously, the human individual is always engaged in trying to make things just as he wants them and in no other way. And if some obstacles crop up in the way, he will try to remove those obstacles and somehow or the other see that things are as he wants them to be And in this clinging to one's selfish desires lies the seeds of all like and dislike, all quarrel, all disharmony, all discord, all conflict, all clash, all hatred, all vengefulness, all desire to retaliate, all sorrow. By clinging to our own desires, we lose our peace of mind. This is samsara, this is life. This is why no human being is always happy. No human being is at peace within himself. Man is always in a state of agitation, because by the very nature of things, all things do not go the way he wants them to. The world has a will of its own. It also wants things in its own way. And there is always a variance between the way in which we want things for ourselves and the way in which the world is prepared to give things to us. And this perpetual tension is life. And therefore, the human individual is not satisfied, not content, not at peace. He is not happy. Our worshipful master gave the dictum: adapt, adjust, accommodate. He gave it within the framework of the social milieu. He gave it within the framework of human affairs, of human relationships. But within the framework of our interior life, our spiritual life, where we are related to God, it is not merely a question of adapting, adjusting and accommodating with God. It is bowing to the will of God. It is surrendering to the will of God. It is a question of saying, thy will be done, not mine. It's a question of giving up I and mine and saying to God, nothing belongs to me, all belongs to you. And then behaving and living like that, reacting like that. Surrender means to tell God, you will be the one to lay down the rule, not I. You will be the one to pilot the ship, not I. It means surrendering to the Lord the conduct of our life and to be content to make our life in the way He wants it to be made. Surrendering ourselves, surrendering our selfishness regarding things and conditions, and remaining happy in whatever condition He may keep us. So, this way, surrender helps us a lot in reaching the abode of divine truth. So, it is a major spiritual path. Let us try to understand properly and rise up to that level so that we may reach that superconscious state without any difficulty. So what I said in the beginning, that one should have zealousness and one must have strong aspiration, then certainly you will be able to realize the truth in this very life. Sri Ramakrishna, page 837, Sri Ramakrishna said, the book is filled with ideas of knowledge and devotion. Adhyatma Ramayana. The life of Savitri and the hymn by Halya are filled with bhakti. But you must remember one thing, God is very far away from the mind tainted with worldliness. Pandit said, yes sir, God is far, far away from worldly intelligence. And God is very near where that doesn't exist. I visited a certain Zamindar, one Mukherjee of Uttarapara. He is now an elderly man, but he listens only to stories and novels. Master said, it is further said in the Adhyatma Ramayana that God alone has become the universe and its living beings. The Pandit was delighted. He recited the hymn to that effect from the 10th chapter of the Bhagavata. O Krishna, Krishna, mighty yogi, thou art the primal supreme Purusha. This universe, manifest and unmanifest, is thy form, as the sages declare. Thou alone art the soul, the sense organs, the Lord dwelling in the bodies of all. Thou art the subtle, great Prakriti, made of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Thou alone art the Purush, the Lord dwelling in the bodies of all. As Sri Ramakrishna listened to the hymn, he went into Samadhi. He remained standing. The Pandit was seated. The Master placed his foot on the Pandit's lap and chest and smiled. The Pandit clung to his feet and said, "O Guru, please give me God consciousness." After the Pandit had left the room, Sri Ramakrishna said to Yam, "Don't you see that what I have said is coming to pass? Those who have sincerely practiced meditation and japa must come here." It was 10 o'clock. Sri Ramakrishna ate a little farina pudding and lay down. He asked Yam to stroke his feet. A few minutes later, he asked his disciple to massage his body and chest gently. He enjoyed a short nap. Then he said to Yam, "Now go to sleep. Let me see if I can sleep better when I am alone." He said to Ramlal, "He," meaning Yam, and Rakal may sleep in the room. It was dawn. Sri Ramakrishna was awake and meditating on the Divine Mother. On account of his illness, the devotees were deprived of his sweet chanting of the Mother's name. Sri Ramakrishna was seated on the small couch. He asked Yam, "Well, why have I this illness?" Yam said, "People will not have the courage to approach you unless you resemble them in all respects. But they are amazed to find that in spite of such illness, you don't know anything but God." Master said smilingly. Balram also said, "If even you can be ill, then why should we wonder about our illnesses?" Lakshman was amazed to see that Rama could not lift his bow on account of his grief for Sita. Even Brahman weeps entangled in the snare of the 5 elements. Master Mahesh said, "Jesus Christ too wept like an ordinary man at the suffering of his devotees." Master said, "How was that?" Yam said, "There were 2 sisters, Mary and Martha. Lazarus was their brother. All 3 were devoted to Jesus. Lazarus died. Jesus was on his way to their house. One of the sisters, Mary, ran out to meet him. She fell at his feet and said, weeping, 'Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died.' Jesus wept. He wept to see her cry. Then Jesus went to the tomb of Lazarus and called him by name. Immediately Lazarus came back to life and walked out of the tomb." Sri Ramakrishna said, "But I can't do those things." Yam said, "That's because you don't want to. These are miracles, therefore you are not interested in them. These things draw people's attention to their bodies. Then they do not think of genuine devotion. That's why you don't perform miracles. But there are many similarities between you and Jesus Christ." Let us stop here. Any question you have to ask, you are free to ask. No question? All right. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust raging furiously within. Our name streamed down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself, O self, drowned deep in the waves of His bliss, tasting His nectar at every step, bathing in His name that bath for weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord. In each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue. The playthings of lust are the ties of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Ah, how I long for the day when an instant separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be, in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stillest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers. May all realize what is good. May all be actuated by noble thoughts. May all rejoice everywhere. May all be happy. May all be free from disease. May all realize what is good. May none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous. May the virtuous reign in tranquility. May the tranquil be free from bonds. May the freed make others free. May good betide all people. May the sovereign righteously rule the earth. May all beings ever attain what is good. May the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time. May the earth be blessed with crops. May all countries be freed from calamity. May holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For, he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.